You first said that you need to trust the actors and the input that they give, but then you also went on to say that they're narcissists and need therapy.
I think acting by its profession demands a lot of vulnerability.
Why do people have to scream and shout and abuse in our society to get things done?
You enforce the law with a danda and then people will listen.
That is the only way. You don't think so?
As a production structure, there's a lot lacking. There are no systems. The salaries on our drama set are abysmal. Abysmal.
Wow.
That's even less than what some drivers get.
88 days, 24 non-stop, 12 hours a day.
There is no concept of royalties and all of that either.
Right.
So everything is pocketed by the channels.
What is our shortcoming?
You have to realize Pakistan is a conservative country. You showed so much skin. So the conversation shifts from what is being said to clothing. It's absolutely confused as hell. And I've always said, learn from the Iranians and Iranian cinema, where they have more restrictions than we do, and yet they have managed to tell very subversive, very, very interesting stories.
Nareen Jabbar, how are you today?
I could be better, but I'm good.
You've had a long stretch of recordings.
Yes, it's day 88 today.
It's day 88
Yes.
in a row.
No, in a row is day 24.
24 days in a row.
Yeah.
And what time do you start?
We start around 11:30. We end around 10:15.
That's a long day.
It
On
is.
your feet, in the heat,
Yeah.
humidity.
Yeah.
What keeps you going in this kind of environment?
At the gym in the morning.
The gym in the morning.
That's my only downtime
Yeah.
when I can not have people around me.
But doesn't the fatigue catch up, let's say, after a week, 7, 10,
Today, finally it has.
4 days is a lot?
Yeah. And, it's also the sleeping pattern, because I'm getting, I see you're wearing a Whoop, I wear an Aura.
Yeah.
So every morning you wake up to lots of numbers.
Yeah.
So the numbers are not happy with me.
Yeah.
And it's
all
been
right.
4 or 5 hours of sleep. So that's what's getting to me more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the shoot environment. I was watching one of the other podcasts you've done, and you said something interesting. You first said that you need to trust the actors and the input that they give, but then you also went on to say that they're narcissists and need therapy. How can you trust someone who needs therapy and is a narcissist?
Well, actors, like human beings, there are all kinds of actors out there, right?
Yeah.
All kinds of personalities. I think acting by its profession demands a lot of vulnerability, because you're putting yourself out there for millions of people to judge, to pass comments on very freely.
Right.
So none of us would be, like you and me.
Right.
Yes, if your podcast, you will get comments, but the actor is judged by every single thing that they do on camera and off the camera, their private lives. And so that obviously takes a toll on, I can imagine. So some deal with it in a certain way, some don't. So every set has, multiple varying kinds of people on it, and you have to just figure out how to approach and how to best make their lives comfortable on set, because it's a long process, right?
Right.
You are working with them for weeks on end, and you have to give that environment and that space enough creatively for them to express themselves while not getting all, insecure or worked up or uncomfortable. And our industry is, as I've said before, there's a lot left to be desired production-wise. But yeah, this is the only one we have, so.
And don't the actors have to do the same? Because it is their personality that can affect the cameraman, the light, the person, the DOP, the producer, director, because they're bringing that energy to the stage and that's being captured. So if they bring in the wrong kind of energy, they bring in too much ego, too much drama, doesn't that really kill the vibe?
Of course it does. So
how do you manage that?
Well, I manage it by sometimes not engaging at that level. I'm generally, as a person, as a director, let's say, it takes time for me to sit and kind of, get all comfortable and hang out in the makeup room, let's say. It takes me a little bit more time, because as a person, I'm not immediately gregarious. I'm a little introverted. With difficult, quote unquote, or people who are known to have kind of what they say attitude hai, nakhre hai, unke saath, then usually the makeup team is the best way as a conduit, the middle people to deal with, and it's very professional. I haven't had anyone who does badtameezi, or they've all been very respectful throughout. So I haven't had I haven't faced those issues, but it's kind of, at the end of the day, you're also a director, is also a kind of therapist, or you have to really figure out how to deal with every single person individually and talk to them that way. So I'm hoping there hasn't been any animosity or high drama behind the scenes of my set.
And how do you deal with relationships or personal relationships or relationships between those on set? Because I'm sure that can complicate the shoot as well.
Yeah. I mean, I usually am not someone who is known to shout and scream or, abuse. But I do sometimes do have to raise my voice because unfortunately, our industry and our environment sometimes, as they say, okay, unless you raise your voice and become a BIE, Bitcoin, things don't happen, which I hate doing because my blood pressure rises. I'm not that person.
Right.
But some things just you have to just kind of assert yourself. And I know that there are a ton of male directors who abuse, who are quite obnoxious on set.
Right.
The stories that I've heard.
Right.
Not all, and I'm sure they are driven by their own frustrations and chaos that happens. So I make it a point to keep it civil. If I've screamed, I do apologize, if I've been unfair. And I keep it light. Yeah, there's no, everyone's out there to make this project work and finish on time.
Right.
And you manage relationships by, just like being cool with everyone, and also not having a hierarchy of like not, treating the spot boy, the makeup guy the same as the light guy, because everyone's putting in actually double time that I am.
And why do you think raising your voice or being that character is essential in our society relative to, let's say, other places?
I think because it's even though the industry has really expanded and it's doing phenomenally well in terms of, let's say, even on YouTube, millions and billions of views and all of that. But as a structure, as a production structure, there's a lot lacking. There are no systems really in place. So a lot of things are kind of, जैसे कहते हैं, we say Allah tawakkal ho jayega, inshallah, based on those things. And sometimes in this industry, you have to be, in the film and TV industry, has to be very regulated, very kind of planned meticulously. Otherwise, things can go really wrong. There's a lot of money dependent on it. There's so many people involved in it. Yahan pe it's sometimes quite kind of unstructured.
Exactly.
So one gets frustrated, and so you shout, and then people say, oh no, maybe what if, let's say, the director walks off set because she or he is not happy, we are going to lose X amount of money. Oh, let's get it done now. So, the threat of sometimes actors, if they are not paid, they will say, oh, I'm not going to make, I know I have 10 scenes, but if you don't pay me, I'm not going to come on set. So miraculously, the money comes into their account. And before that, they have been screaming and shouting and begging people, please pay me the due amount. This is how our system works, unfortunately.
So I actually did a poll because I was curious about this. Like, why do people have to scream and shout and abuse in our society to get things done? I did a small poll in my office and I asked people whose mother or father has yelled at them or screamed or shouted at them more than once.
Yeah.
Everyone raised their hand. And I said, how many of you have been hit by a chappal or a juta? 80% raised their hand.
Oh.
So now, and this is like normal educated, college educated kids. And so what led me to believe then is that if you live in a society where your upbringing is about screaming, shouting, and having a shoe thrown at you, why would you ever listen to someone who's speaking to you peacefully in your work environment?
Right. Didn't think of that.
So it's just the culture that we're in. So you can't get things done unless you remind them of their mother or father.
That's hilarious. I mean, it's a classic thing of, when people say, okay, throwing trash out of cars, or say the minute they step out of Pakistan, they're going to go to the trash can and put the trash there. But here it's...
Exactly.
And so, the common, which I don't believe in, that you have to have a benevolent dictatorship here like Singapore.
Yeah.
Or you enforce the law with a renda and then people will listen.
That is the only way. You don't think so?
I mean, that's not the ideal way, but sometimes maybe, it's all about structuring. It's all bottom down, niche se leke, it's all, that has to be fixed.
But agar fear nahi hai upar, they don't know, if they don't, there's no accountability, there's no consequence.
Yeah, consequences more than fear that I need to do. And just the under say, like, I have to do or I should do the right thing.
The should cannot be true. The should, I think people have lost the should for now.
Yeah.
So the consequence has to be built.
So it has to be the chappal then.
Yeah, it has to be the chappal. And so then that brings me to my next question. You also bring up a lot of the places you've been speaking and giving interviews, the importance of pre-production, right? The discipline around pre-production. Walk me through what good pre-production looks like.
A good pre-production would look like, let's say you have the script in hand. A lot of times we don't get the entire script in hand. So let's say we start shooting when 18 episodes are here or 20 are here. 6, 7, 8 still need to be written, which is not ideal. But, because of deadlines, so those scripts are planned, those episodes are planned while you're also shooting. So ideal way is you have all the scripts in hand. You mark your locations. You go on recce's, location scouting. You then arrange an entire team's recce situation. First, the recce's happens between the location guy and, maybe the ADs and then the director. Then once that's approved, then everyone goes there, the art director, the line producer, the cameraman, to see, okay, this works for our project. The line producer should see, this is where the kitchen will be. This is where I will feed the 50, 60 people on set. This is how many bathrooms there are. Okay, if one actor wants their own room, some actors don't want to share makeup rooms. But in a house, let's say there are only 2 bedrooms, then what are you going to do? Do you have to hire a vanity van to house one actor? All those other logistics. Okay, what are the timings and their DHA permissions? DHA doesn't allow you to shoot without permissions. They take money for that. And that's 10 to 10. Okay, and 10 to 10, and then managing cars, who has to be picked. There's a lot that goes in. And that ideally should be discussed beforehand. Unfortunately, we discuss everything on WhatsApp in this industry. Bahar, there are softwares, pre-production softwares where everyone can access the computer and see, okay, to-do lists, this is what the task was for certain person. Has it been accomplished? But here it's all on, like 6, 7 different groups. And so you've lost the thread because WhatsApp just keeps going, right? And by the end of the pre-production, my phone, there are like 5,000 location photos of rejected because everyone has sent me. I don't want them on my phone or wardrobe, or it's like I have to delete so much junk. So those kind of systems need to be, if they are put in place, that is excellent pre-production, which I experienced, let's say, in my films or some of the web series I did. That happened there. But in dramas, it's very...
And what stops that from coming here?
There are multiple things. There are also not the quality, but the kind of people involved in dramas. The pay scale is what matters. People who are doing, let's say, web series or commercials are much highly paid. The salaries on our drama set are abysmal. I'll give you an example. An in-house assistant director would probably get anywhere from 70,000, 80,000 rupees a month. A second assistant director would get 40,000 a month.
Wow.
That's even less than what some drivers get, right? So now...
And they're required to run the schedule you just said.
They are required, yes. Not 24 days, 88 days,
88 days, 24 non-stop, 12 hours a day.
So the pay scale is quite bad.
How do they make ends meet?
I think they make ends meet by how the country is making ends meet. I don't know.
Shortcuts.
A shortcut. So poor guys, I mean, they can't be... And again, the channels and the production houses say, we don't make enough to pay them enough.
How much do they pay the actors?
Actors vary. So I wouldn't get into specific figures, but a range would be, you see, it depends. Some actors take per daily. So a lot of them take okay, I'm going to be working 15 days. I'll take a daily amount. Some the main leads would say, I'll do a package. Okay, I'm going to be shooting 60 days or 65 days. I will take, let's say, 50 lakhs, 60 lakhs, 80 lakhs. Depends, again.
So they'll take it for the project.
They'll take it for the fee. Yeah, they'll take a project fee.
Versus some take a daily fee. So
and mostly the people who take daily fees are people who are playing the most supporting actor roles.
Yeah.
Let's say, there's the leads and the mother's father, friends, cousins, all of that. So for them, daily works. And then they are doing multiple other projects also.
Right.
And they are the most difficult to get dates from.
Right.
Because at one point they're doing, let's say, 2 projects, 3 dramas. So there's a constant war between an assistant director, one project, and the other project. Ye date de, please give us 5th of January. You can take 7th from ours. So there's constant stock exchange situation happening behind the scenes.
Would you say it's fair to assume that the actors on average would get about 500,000 to 2 million a day? Or is it?
No, 2 million a day is like
No.
no.
So it's 500 to let's
Even 500 is too much. I would say, I mean, I need to find out more rates, but I would say anywhere from 40 lakhs to a crore, depending again on who is being cast
for
the entire project.
and which would be about 20 episodes.
No, now it's like 25 to 30 to 35. It really depends.
Okay, got
Yeah,
it. So it's about 300,000.
So yeah,
So 100 to 300.
my math is horrific, so
Yeah.
you can calculate
Okay.
that. And some actors shoot 70 days, some shoot 65, some
Right.
shoot 80. So
Right. Okay. And so this exchange of dates, this lack of pre-production software, is it? I mean, let's say the software was free. You think people would use it?
I think it's about training people how to use it. Let's
Is
say
there training in the industry?
no, there's not really. Like there's something called a call sheet, which is a very normal thing.
Very normal thing.
Our drama industry is not very used to it. The way they give dates to actors is they WhatsApp. These are the scenes you're doing. These are the dates we want on WhatsApp. So because I've been working with call sheets, I've kind of forced the ADs now to make one every day. So it was an learning experience for them also. So that everything's on one. You see, they don't work. It's just the training. They can do it. It's just about getting someone. Like I keep saying, I wish there was a production training workshop, which I should do. I should just be ranting about it. I know.
Do you think people would do it for free or even forget paying for it? Would they do it for free?
Train? Or
receive the training, provide the training?
Of course, I think so. I think training ka ye hai, they have to make sure, like a couple of people on my set were saying, okay, we've learned this. Okay, Excel sheet pe we need to make these breakdowns, make a schedule for the entire project, not just day by day. That was my other thing. We need to know what's happening.
Right.
I can't just be like, I need to know when this project will end.
Right.
Or a call sheet. They'll say, okay, we'll do it in this project, but the next director, the next project that comes along, they work in very different ways. So we'll have to unlearn everything and go back to the way we're doing. So everyone has to follow through.
There has to be the industry standard.
Yes, exactly.
And you think the industry is not willing to move in that direction?
I think they're not interested because it's running, it's doing really well.
Right.
People are making money, so why should they change anything?
Right. It's funny you mentioned the WhatsApp thing. So just coincidence. Just to organize ourselves as a business, we made an AI agent that sits in WhatsApp groups and creates a dashboard that actually shows action items and tasks and deliverables for everyone. Agent just sits there. And so every morning you can open up your dashboard and be like, this is group A, this is group B, group C, and all my action items. Super easy.
Please tell me how. My brother was actually telling me he does that for his work, that on his email.
Yeah.
He just summarizes everything, and this is scary as hell. And I told him, these guys, the AI is hacking into everything. So just be, just be a little wary.
So now when you look at pre-production being an important thing, training being an important thing, what prevents our industry to ramp up to, let's say, the level of the Indian industry next door? Forget Hollywood and Western industries. What is our shortcoming other than just bad pre-production and poor training?
Our shortcoming is, I think for them, it's the market is not big enough to warrant, let's say, unions being formed, for example. I mean, there's not even enough agreement between people to form unions. Because if unions are formed, then you can demand rights and access to better working conditions, pay, etc. So there's no such thing. Because if 3 people get together, there'll be 5 more saying we'll do it without a union, right? So that structure is not there. There's some channels that have tried to train their staff. I'll give you a small example of even production-wise. Like our cameras have gotten really better. Our director of photography is amazing. They're doing an amazing work. Our sound is from I just laugh at it because we still use something called a Zoom device.
Right.
With the 4 Sennheiser mics, which is like the base and the lowest form of sound recording And I'm like, man, they're not training because for them for some reason, sound is not important, even though sound is as important as visuals.
Yeah.
Right. Well, they spent lakhs and lakhs on lenses and cameras.
Yeah.
They're not spending anything on training sound recorders or buying the right equipment. It's just,
sound is my pet peeve.
Yeah.
Like you go to any function or any event, you go to a Mehndi, and there'll be these giant speakers, and the guy has not balanced sound.
Yeah.
You know, the frequencies are sitting all over each other. It's messy. And I'm like, you're sitting with a system this big. Just at least get the acoustics right.
Yeah.
And they don't have the training, unfortunately. It's just a matter of training and picking it up. And they've just been hearing these
That's it. Yeah.
blurry sounds sit on top of each other.
The thing with training is everything is now available on YouTube.
Yeah.
Even if you are worst case scenario, anything you ever want to learn in the world is available.
So it has to be intrinsic also. And that doesn't exist because people are too busy trying to make ends meet.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing.
Exactly.
So you said the Indian market is a bigger market, so there's a lot more opportunity to make money. And once you've gotten a mindset of abundance and you've sort of settled your issues, you have the headspace to learn and train, do more.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big challenge in our market.
It is because our main, we have two sources of revenue for the channels. One is, of course, television with the ads, and the other is YouTube.
Yeah.
And that's it. And there is no concept of royalties and all of that either.
Right.
So everything is pocketed by the channels.
Right.
Not even the production houses, they don't get a share either.
The India does?
I'm not sure, actually. Good question.
And India also has OTT. They have the digital platforms.
Yeah, they have.
Pakistan doesn't. For some reason, it's not worked out here.
Yeah, because it's subscriber model. You have to pay. We love our torrents.
We love our torrents.
We don't want to.
There's a huge disadvantage because the owner of the content doesn't own the content. The platform does.
Yeah.
And you're not getting the full rev share. You're just getting a percentage off of that.
Yeah.
How is that a disadvantage to the local industry? Putting everything on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, the advantage is, of course, the access is incredible. It's global, it's diaspora, especially. And for our dramas, I think it's more India, Pakistan, Bangladesh.
Right.
And then the diaspora in UAE, Europe, America watching. And it involves not just Pakistanis, but Indians also who understand. And YouTube has subtitles. They have Arabic and English and Hindi and all of that. So that is good. It is exposure-wise, it's excellent. Channels are minting money. But for the rest of us who are paid for their services, it's, you do a project and you have to move on. You have to find another one. Because there's no steady stream, like the Seinfeld. It did.
Just royalties.
Forever. Didn't have to do anything else. Or Friends, or we don't have that. But even there, people with OTT, actors there have been protesting because OTTs have not been giving them royalties.
Do you see that changing here?
Not unless everyone comes on board.
Which they won't happen anytime soon.
I don't think so. Not yet.
And we're talking about India. Do you think that poor relations with India negatively impact our industry?
I think it impacted our film industry because there were lots of Indian films coming, and that was because not enough films were being made here. So that's how our cinemas, unfortunately, got really badly affected. Hopefully that will change. The good thing is I see a lot of people now coming to watch, at least in the multiplexes. I don't know about the small towns and cities. They are coming to watch, Odyssey or Spider-Man or Obsession, for example, which did so well around the world. But even here, people were watching. And now with this initiative by the Sindh government, Punjab government, there are a lot of films being made locally.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping there'll be a traffic again. So TV-wise, I don't think so. But film-wise, yes, it did affect us.
But isn't that a good thing that we have bad relations and Indian films aren't coming so the local industry can actually...
Well, finally, that's been many, many years since Indian films were banned. It's like how many, 6-7 years now?
Yeah.
So finally, if we've taken the initiative, that's good. I'm generally not a believer in banning anything. So, I mean, India doesn't allow any. India's do haath aage, as they say. They're worse off. Yeah. They are more paranoid about us.
Yeah.
The government.
Yep.
So.
And in this industry, do you think that writers play an important role? You've talked about that in the past as well. And you talk about good quality writers missing, and then the difference between writers who write for the character versus writers who write for their own ego. How do you develop a community of good quality writers to push this industry forward?
So there are, we have a lot of good writers. The only thing is, there are lots of subjects now. They are broadening the subject matter now of dramas. In the last, I think, 3-4 years, there was a lull in the middle where one kind of drama was being made, which was mostly about mother-in-law, daughter-in-law. They were copying, they were copying Indian content. And before that, of course, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, there was much more interesting stuff happening. Story-wise, we were experimenting, we were doing all kinds of stuff.
Right.
Then came Allah. Now I feel a lot more is happening. Very interesting themes are being picked up.
Yeah.
Again, writers, the channels will be a little conservative in terms of subject matter, but they have been bold in some respects. There have been stories that are out of the box, but at the end of the day, they have to look at the TRPs, the ratings, what is going to get them the money, right?
Right.
There are some who invest in experimental stuff. Having said that, I do agree that together with production, there needs to be a screenwriting workshop, schools, courses, because we've kind of got stuck in writing in the same way.
Right.
Because we do have some schools. I mean, we have Zabist, Iqra, Karachi University, LUMS, etc. They're all there, but we need more access because also they are just focused on Karachi, Lahore as well. I mean, Pakistan is a huge country. There are so many kids, young people who probably want to do it, have the talent and have no clue how to go about writing or getting into this industry. So it has to be more widespread.
And do you think the stories from around the nation are being told, or they're limited stories?
Very limited. I mean, mostly it's urban, which I excel in. Like urban Karachi story, excel in the sense I focus on.
Right.
But there are a lot of stories on, in tribal cultures and up north. So, Ustra hai, but not really. Like I don't recall seeing a drama recently, which is just a Sindhi family, for example, with those accents so we are, of course, still catered to very much like a middle class.
Do you think there's a market for that? For those
Don't know till you try it. I have no idea. Sometimes audiences can surprise you. I would say can never underestimate the audience. They can make the most ridiculous things a massive hit, and the most, like for example, I would say I keep going to Obsession because it was such a small film, and I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't seen
the horror film. Brilliant. Made for $750,000 and made $400 million plus.
For how much?
It was made in $750,000.
That's it.
Yeah. And this young guy in his early 20s.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal.
Like the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah,
today.
exactly. And there was another one called Backrooms, which I haven't seen, made by a 20-year-old or something.
Right.
They outperformed studio films.
Wow.
So that's what I'm saying. Audiences all over the world, it's changing so much.
Yeah.
Cinema in general. It's a very worrying state as well because access to films is so now, you can see it on your phone, on your laptop, on your TV. So are you going to spend that money, the $20 in the US here? It's like 1,000 rupees.
Yeah, it's
plus
expensive.
popcorn, plus that. So
very expensive. But films recently, like if you look at Spider-Man and you look at Odyssey, those two films prove that audiences are willing to make the trip to the theater.
They are.
Globally. If it's big production, long story, high sort of feature value.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Obsession and Backrooms.
Also, yes.
And Backrooms, which was not high budget and high.
Drew you to the theater.
Yes. So the difference, there is an audience for stuff. You just have to get your story right and you have to connect. That's the magic formula which we are all searching for.
And in the last, let's say 12 months or 18 months, do you see anything here that does that in terms of TV or film?
I think recently there was a film that Fahad Mustafa produced, this guy Bilal, young guy, called Aag Lagi Basti Mein, has done, I think, 100 crores or something.
Wow.
And probably made for, I don't know what the budget is, but they have exceeded there. So audiences was a well-made film.
Right.
Audiences connected, they went, they made it a success. So it can be done. Yeah.
How would you compare that to a Maula Jat production of that level?
So that's again, Maula Jat is another, I would say Maula Jat, even though it's an indie film, but I would say that's a big high concept studio film. Whereas Aag Lagi was a smaller film. Both did extremely well. Again, as I said, it's all about the story. You don't need to. I don't think in this day and age, because Star Wars failed, for example, that was high budget. A lot of these superhero franchises have been failing. So it's really what connects at the human level with audiences.
So recently we're seeing a trend in US TV content, or even let's say OTT content, that show everyday real life characters that have deep flaws, right? Like, so if you look at a Better Call Saul type thing, if you look at Friends and Neighbors, you look at Breaking Bad, these are everyday people that are deeply flawed, that evolve into someone that can be disliked, but for some reason you still continue to like them. You understand why they've turned into this. Do you think we can see that in local content? And are we seeing that trend coming in?
I think we are, yeah. And some, I know you don't watch TV dramas, but I think there are some characters that I've seen that have the everyday quality, the everyday housewife or the everyday whatever the person, and they are doing things that are, that you might not agree with, or the character does things that are not always right. So those nuances, not all writers, but there are some writers who are bringing that gray shades into characters. So yeah, that is happening.
What's an example of that?
I would say recently, like my last serial I did was a show called Dr. Bahu, right? Now, in all the characters I felt I had a lot of shades, and that's credit to the writer. So you were angry at them, and then you liked them, and they're doing things, and you're like, why the hell are they doing that? But then you understood why they were doing that. So it wasn't the cliched stereotype black and white cardboard caricatures. They were actual fleshed out human beings. Then there was another show called Ek Aur Pakiza, brilliant show, funded by Kash Foundation, and that was on cyber bullying and how it destroys a couple's life. A fake video of them, and that was really realistic and really well done, and how this woman fights the court system. There was case number 9 about a rape case. So there are lots of subjects which are different being explored. Currently, there's a show called Aapki Izzat running, in which this woman is married to a really influential man, and she's really helped him come up to where he is, and he wants to marry someone else, and she kind of connects with the sabzi wala, and she's run off with him. Then there's another play, Dare Nijat, which is running, which has suggested that this boyfriend, girlfriend have slept together. And everyone's talking about it. I say, wow, things have changed. So again, that will be a judgment on her, but at least, there's that, that's being discussed.
So if these topics are being now openly discussed in TV, there used to be this mindset till about a few years ago that if you want a taboo subject, you have to go to a miniseries on an OTT platform. But sounds like you're seeing that come on.
You have to be careful. Like, you have to know how to navigate that. You can't be that explicit. There is a way to do it. We have, I think, especially I have been working since various kinds of censorship laws that have come and gone. So my mind is kind of trained to self-censor, and I kind of know you can say the most radical of things, but the way you say is important. And I've always said, learn from the Iranians and Iranian cinema, where they have more restrictions than we do. And yet they have managed to tell very subversive, very, very interesting stories.
Where do you think the censorship mindset is today? Let's say relative.
It's kind of like our country. It's absolutely confused as hell.
So there's no one mindset?
No. One channel,
what sense?
One channel will say, okay, don't have people hugging so much. One channel will be fine with it. One channel will say so. So it's like individual channels have their own censor boards and what they think. And then Pemra is, of course, the ultimate. But usually the channel censor, they have their own codes.
So if, let's say, all channels open their censor boards, how do you think Pemra would censor?
I think, obviously, there are certain things that you cannot do. You can't have...
It's anti-state, anti-military.
Yeah, anti-state, anti-military, physical affection to a certain point. Hug is fine, but you can't obviously show kissing and other things, right? So, and you have to be... you have to realize Pakistan is a conservative country, no matter what you...
Right.
And these... TV is in everyone's home. They're watching it with their grandparents or their kids and their... So you can't show them things that they're going to be Like, okay, I can't watch this with them.
But are they still watching them in the home with everyone?
Some are.
Because YouTube,
Yes, YouTube is another, but there is a whole section. Of course, it's moving away to YouTube.
Yeah.
Yes. So, for example, in my current series, there was a scene that was censored. Not censored, but the channel said it's not appropriate. It was just a man tying a sari on his wife.
Right.
A movie when she's wearing a t-shirt and pajamas. But they said, okay, the way they're looking is not going to work. But I put it on my Insta, and that like got 3 million views, and then people were saying, okay, just put it in the YouTube version.
Right.
So maybe there'll be two versions, but at the same time, you don't want a backlash coming also. I want to be telling stories that matter, and I don't want people to get lost in, you showed so much skin. So the conversation shifts from what is being said to clothing, unfortunately. So I'd rather have very, very... I'd rather have progressive messaging and just told in a way that resonates without getting lost in, I want that character to wear a tank top. Why? I don't need to. So you have to pick your battles. Film is something else.
How is film different?
Film is because you pay and go there, so it's your choice. TV is always... Again, the YouTube factor is blurring, of course. YouTube, I think a lot more women, like housewives, you see, they always said dramas are for housewives at the house and the older population. But now even housewives are on YouTube. So I don't know how that's going to shift. I mean, it is shifting because of the millions of views. You can see, like, every drama is like minimum 4-5 million.
Because they have it on demand, right? So it's not like they're bound to a schedule.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think for women at home or women on a schedule, there's more women entering the workspace.
Yes.
They need the flexibility to be able to consume content when they want. Right? So if they're consuming content on their own and when they want, then why can't the content be a little bit more risky because it's not with the family anymore?
Well, because the primary telecast, the first telecast is on TV.
It still is.
Yeah. I mean, dramas first are shown on TV, then they come on YouTube.
Do you think it'll ever flip?
It might. There are people who are trying to do that. You still need to, it's still risky because you will have to get actors that people want to watch, right? And then you have to pay those actors. And then you have a gamble. Okay, I'm going to pay and I'm going to invest crores in my project and hope that it'll get YouTube views. Whereas on TV, you can sell it to the shampoos and the soaps of the world. So,
are you seeing content integration here the way we see content integration in some of the more Western pieces of content? Like
not in dramas, but I've done like branded shows.
No, but like even just integration, putting the water bottle, putting a vehicle, putting like certain...
No, it doesn't happen in dramas. They generally blur it out.
Why is that?
I don't know. Because I don't know why they don't. But there are like brands make special branded shows. Like I did a show this year, Sunsilk ke liye.
Yep.
Then Candy did something. Then Coke did something. They do their own branded series. Yeah, I don't know why there's no integration. I'm happy. I don't want to be seeing a Super Biscuit or a Harpic.
But even if you look at like the big franchise movies, let's say you take Iron Man. Had Audi, which was the main car sponsor.
Yeah. Our films do that. I mean, even in my last film, there were multiple. There was McDonald's, there was Close Up. You had to show it.
Right.
So.
And does integration kill the story or affect the story?
Yeah, you have to do it really smartly. So it's not in your face and the audience gets put off because then they get out of the story and they think it's a commercial.
Right.
So it has to be by the way. Agar chai bana rahe hain to piche pada hua hai tapal. Ya Tipton ya jo bhi hai.
Film festivals. Why is that not a big thing here? Because we're not making enough movies?
No, yeah.
What needs to come first? The movies need to come first for a festival, or a festival needs to come first for more movies? Because you did Kara Film Festival some time back.
Yeah. So Kara Film Festival, our first one was 26 years ago.
Right.
When there was really no industry.
Right.
But us waqt, I think there was a lot of, people were dying to put their stuff out there. So there was no cinemas also, really. There was the one, the Nishad Capri's, and there was one in Seaview.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name.
Yeah, exactly.
And us waqt, there was a lot of, I think the India-Pakistan thing was really happy. There's a lot of Indian actors who came.
Yeah.
A lot of them. And we shared. So those were great 5-6 years. Yeah, there needs to be someone to organize because film festivals need money. They need a lot of sponsorships and money, and someone should do it again. I think Hum started one, but wo I think ek do saal hi chala.
What stops you
Pakistan.
from restart?
I don't have time, man. I need to make money and make plays and work on I'm working on my third film and trying to get funding for that. That's where my focus is.
Okay.
Huh.
What's the story about?
The third one, I want to do a psychological thriller horror. That's my
Based here?
based here. Yes.
And you've cast it?
No. It's in the process of its third draft right now.
And what do you hope to achieve with this one that has not been achieved with the first two?
I want to challenge myself because, the first one was very Ramchand, kind of a social, political film. The second was trying to be a commercial film. And this I want to do because I've recently become such a fan of horror and psychological thrillers late in life. I want to see if I can do it. And it's based on an old TV film of mine that I did in the 90s.
By what name?
Putli Ghar. It's about two couples. One couple who moves next door to this mad couple and what happens.
What draws you to horror today?
It's so exciting. It makes me feel young.
Still scares the crap out of me.
So I
can't do horror.
I'm not into slasher horror or this is more psychological thriller. It's more mind games.
Yeah.
So there's no like beasts and monsters in there. There's no zombies, even though I'm a huge zombie fan.
Right.
But it is more, people are kind of messed up in their head.
Is it like that TV show that's doing really well? It's a horror about a small town by the beach, and there's something that's affecting people and takes over them.
Ah.
And you can't figure out what it is. And the first few episodes is just like, gripped by people's eyes going completely white.
It's not Paradise, is it?
No, it's not Paradise. It's also Emmy nominated. I forget the name. It's completely.
Oh no, you must tell me what I'm looking for. No, it's got nothing to do with that. It's literally mind. It's manipulation. It's more.
So it's more human behavior.
Yeah, it's human behavior. It's Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf type, or it's kind of that. But it's the thriller angle is woven in.
But this is very hard to get right because it requires a lot of great
That's why it's taken a long time.
The sound has to be amazing.
Yeah.
And the actor's expression, delivery.
Yeah. Main thing is the script. So trying to get that right and get that spot on, and trying to raise money with. So let's see how that goes. That's why no time for a film festival.
And do you think we have the right actors to play roles such as that?
Yeah, I think we can. I think there are good actors. They just need to be given the challenges. I mean, look at Joyland. What a beautiful film that was. I don't know if you saw it.
I did.
Yeah, I mean, great.
It was an excellent film.
And
it really pushed the boundaries.
Yeah.
Made you really think about a different part of the country that actually exists.
Yeah.
Right? And from a completely different lens.
Absolutely. And brilliant acting everywhere. So people are dying to, I think actors are also tired of doing dramas and the same kind of films. So there is, I'm confident there are people here.
If you would change one thing about this industry, what would that be?
The mad structure. Again, it's all over the place. It just needs discipline and management. That's what I would change.
And if you had one message to give to the following in the industry, right? So let's say the actor, supporting actor, writer, director, DOP and sound. Let's say these 5 or 6 people that make the content, right? And each one can be a different message or takeaway. But what would that be? Let's say for the actor, for the supporting.
For the actor, I would be both for the supporting, just and they already do that, but some who don't. Be prepared. Read the script. Make your backstories. Really, even if it's something on the surface, create a character out of it. Be on time.
It's basic stuff.
Be on time. Show up. As I said, I read somewhere, some American, I think actors are called who said, acting is just showing up on time and knowing the lines.
Yeah.
So it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
So that's for them. DP, bichare, excellent DPs. I think they should more and more should get used to reading scripts. A lot of DPs I've realized in dramas don't read scripts.
Interesting.
And they rely on the director to tell them the story, which should not be the case. The director and the DOP should be absolutely well versed in, because they can help in,
right,
formulating the look for it. But our drama DOPs don't.
Writers?
Writers, I would say experiment with more visual storytelling rather than just dialogue based. We have gotten away, thank God. Our plays, our dramas used to be very kind of radio inspired. But yeah, more action, more screenplay, and a little more in-depth
characterization,
which I feel is lacking.
Okay.
No one's going to listen anyway, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying my wish list.
And sound?
Sound to overhaul, change the equipment,
Change everything.
change the equipment, and train the sound recorders.
That's a big change.
Yeah.
That's a big change. So what keeps you in New York, and why don't you move here and do this full time all the time?
Well, I moved like 23 years ago, so I like my life there. I like getting out of this business and being anonymous and doing my reading, or I have some. I actually made. I've made 12, 13 projects in New York back when things was shot in the US. This is from 2004 onwards. I did a lot of stuff there. Recently, in the last 6-7 years after the dollar went crazy, projects are not being made. But yeah, I never kind of tried to get into the market there, which I regret. I have.
What stopped you?
I don't know, laziness, and just was getting work here as just do it. Okay, let's keep doing it.
What would you have done differently to get into the market?
I think I would have networked more. I'm terrible at networking. Sold myself, done things.
And you would have served that market, or would you have served the diaspora?
Either or. It's storytelling. So I don't have that experience of being someone who's born there. So my stories would not deal with confusion and identity and
right.
the brown, minority. My stories would be more universal, like like some other stuff, because I haven't gone through that, and I don't want to. I'm not interested in those stories.
So you pull from your own everyday.
Yeah, because I've done like 6-7 TV serials that are set in the US,
right?
Cast with Pakistanis, which don't deal with identity issues.
And is it important to be a creative like yourself, to come from a family of creators, which you obviously do? Your parents were creators, and your brother's written a book as well and writes often. Does that play a role in sort of becoming the creative in life?
I think it does, because I was surrounded by it when I was growing up, so it was all around me. And they are excellent critics, parents and brother, and they understand the language. So it's not like talking to someone who the family who doesn't know what I've made or what I want to make, or because they all know everything, right? So
yeah.
They know the language of it, and they're very inspiring, all three of them, and they always try and push me to do my best. And they're not, they don't sugarcoat anything. The criticism is very, very real and raw, which I like.
Do you show them first before you show anyone else?
No. I can't, because dramas come on air.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
or even with a script or anything that you've done?
No, I don't think now they don't have the time. But right. I think, like Ramchandra, my father was very much involved and produced and, and wrote the first story of it. So, but I do tell them before I'm doing, okay, this is not for dramas, but for the film or something else, I would for sure.
How do you get out of the shadow of a figure like your father, who's been around for a long time, done so many different things? Is it difficult to sort of make your own name in that environment?
I think it's been so long now, I'm not the teenager anymore. I've kind of, one can never be what he's achieved. One is just, both my brother and I, my mother, we all have our different kind of journeys. And I've realized as you get older also, you have to be just happy. And even the regrets you have, you can't sit and wail about them. You move on. Life is short. You try and do the best you can. That's it. I don't sit and think about, I need to get out of or be in someone's shadow or not shadow. It doesn't cross my mind.
What would you tell your 20-something-year-old self?
Network more.
Network, really? It's that important, huh?
Not important. Just to, I do wish I had the opportunity. I might still get. I'm not saying life is over yet. Till I'm living, I still do want to shoot something outside Pakistan also, and for other markets.
And how do you define success?
Success is, for me, I tell this story a lot to friends now. And because in the middle, I was like, oh God, I haven't done anything, I'm stagnating and all of that. And we went on this cruise, my parents and I, brother, last year or year before. And there are lots of these entertainers on the cruise ships.
Hmm.
They have these shows
Yeah.
and they sing. And I was like, wow, this is their life. No one knows them outside this cruise ship,
Yeah.
but they are making, let's say, 1,000 people so happy.
Yeah.
So I said, that's a great analogy. Okay, for me, it's okay. 10 people, 100 people, 100,000, if they like what I've done, or if they've been affected by it, it's okay. That's a good feeling.
So as long as you can affect.
Yeah, as long as the story comes through, because we are storytellers. If the story resonates with 5, 10, 15, 20, it's fine. Doesn't need to be millions of people. It can be, any change or any effect in someone is good.
And what would be the advice for someone just starting out in this industry, in the shoes or the role that you've played, which is, let's say, of a director or producer?
I would say there are two things. It's the atmosphere is tough also because there's a lot of competition, a lot of people coming in. But at the same time, the access is amazing. It's much more than I ever had. Again, on YouTube, on social media, you can learn everything you need to know. At least, मतलब आप देख सकते हो, for practical you have to be on set.
Yeah.
But वो होता था ना कि you have to go to film school. Yes, film school is very important. But you can actually get a lot of basic knowledge now, which the access, and our phones are there. You can tell stories from your phone. If you're really passionate, if you have a story or 5-minute story, shoot it with your friends and your phone. Put it on YouTube. I don't know, there's no harm. You will learn the craft that way. You can keep experimenting and doing that. And don't give up. It's everyone, as I said, these last 2 films that made millions of dollars were made by 19 and 24, 25-year-olds. So it's not that, oh, I'm young, I don't have a future. You do have a future. Now with AI coming in and affecting that future, we'll have to adapt. We can't fight it. We'll have to see how we fit in. My role might be redundant in a year, maybe. And people, I was just seeing on another app that you can just put your entire screenplay in and it'll just create a movie for you. Sora bhi hai, Hicksfield, क्या नाम है? एक Spielberg का कोई app है वो.
Oh, that I haven't seen.
Abhi, just this morning I saw another one where they fed a page from a Forrest Gump scene.
Yeah.
And in seconds, it was really nicely filmed. And
have you tried AI for?
I've tried AI. Yeah. I've not. Well, for this drama, we're going to try something which is very interesting with special effects mostly. But it's scary, but you have to embrace it. You cannot hide. That's the thing.
Do you think you can tell? Do you think a non-native English speaker, non-native language speaker can use AI and tell a story for the rest of the world?
Non-English speaker?
Non-native language speaker. So let's say it's a Saraiki speaker sitting in Bahawalpur.
Of course.
Sits on AI and tells a perfect story, creates the content, resonates with the world.
Yeah, of course they can. Of course they can.
Actually, see, that to me is actually the message right now for the young guys.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what language you speak.
Yeah. That's
YouTube
what I'm saying.
Is where you get the training.
YouTube, everyone has a phone.
Everyone has a phone.
And you just need a cheap mic.
Yes.
And just shoot. Because in the end, that's why also these vertical series are, popular. There's these short 30, 60 seconds.
So I'm saying you don't even shoot. I'm saying you just prompt your way.
Yeah, you prompt. I mean, it's a tragedy, but yes, you can do it.
That's what I was going to say. So why is that a tragedy if it's about the story and its story?
Only because there's nothing will replace humans. I mean, I don't think they should. A human actor or a human writer, that I'm hoping is not, because that's the end of, what is the point then really of anything. I mean, the music is pretty much, I've heard like amazing AI songs.
So if you've heard amazing AI songs, the AI production quality is good. The effects are decent. If you can replicate emotion and dialogue.
Yeah. Eventually people will crave, human beings live and have expanded and grown because of human connection, social connections. So I don't think that will go anywhere. It'll just evolve into a little scary little future, which I don't
see. I have a slightly different thesis on this. I think AI will do a better job than influencers and content creators. And the reason is that, so right now there's this whole discussion of these big AI companies buying up all the rare books on the planet.
Yes, I know. And they're destroying them.
And they cut them. And there's a video that shows how they pick them up and they scan them, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically what that means is all written words from as far back as you can go to the printing press, whatever, will be captured in the model, right? That gives you the variety of nuanced language, of everything, prose, speech, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Which does not happen in influencer content because they're just kind of going with the trend and going with the flow. So there's very little structure to that content. It's just you're picking up trends and regurgitating what 10 other people have said.
Right.
So if AI is trained on that, the actual hard text, it should be able to replicate pretty much every single human emotion and every word attached to emotion in any possible language. Add that with the ability to create effects, sound, whatever. Do you really need human?
No, you do, because
storytelling?
it won't have the distinct human quirk and eccentric personality that you will bring to it. That's why it can create a generic, really good-looking thing, but
So it
human
can't bring the
beings-
Tarantino to him.
it can't, or the quirk, or the
Yeah.
faults, or the cracks. That's what makes stories interesting, or paintings interesting. Perfect things are never interesting.
So it has to be imperfect.
It has to be imperfect. Yeah. That's why beautiful people, good-looking people make terrible actors. And on that note, I have to run.
But no, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I had a nice
This was
chat
fun.
with you.
Yeah.
Good luck
Yeah,
with the
thanks.
next project. Definitely use lots of AI. Not everywhere.
Maybe when we meet again next year, it'll be another
Yeah, for sure.
follow-up
Perfect.
podcast. Thank you.
All right.